Hi, everybody. It's Jay, and I am back in the booth with you for another sneak peek video preview for this week's new release here on Say with Jay. This week's new release is Under the Rising Moon. It is book 2 in Jessie Gussman's Raspberry Ridge Beach Sweet Romance series, and I've got more about the story and a live preview reading for you in just a minute. But first, a couple of things. To start with, let's address the elephant in the room, or more precisely, the chipmunk in the booth. If you guys have spent any time around me or on this channel or in Jessie's Facebook chat group, then you know I have kind of an odd affinity for chipmunks. And a dear, dear friend sent me this shirt in celebration of Jessie's and my 100th audiobook on the sandy beach, which was book number 1 in this series, and I just had to share it with you guys. I mean, what's more perfect than a chipmunk wearing headphones? Anyway, I hope he's not going to be too distracting. Just try to remember, my eyes are up here. Anyway, the second thing. As we've done a lot, Jessie has included a dish within the scope of her story, and we thought it would be fun for me to make it for you here today. We're going to do that again in yet another segment we like to call Cooking with Jay. This week, our dish is kind of unique. I feel sort of bad because the previous Cooking with Jay segment that we did, I promised that there was no simpler recipe out there than my dad's lemon barbecue chicken that we did. I may have spoken too soon. This recipe is so very simple and so easy to put together. It takes a little bit to cook, but you can have it in the oven in 5 minutes, and it is absolutely fantastic. Today we are making Dr. Pepper chicken. It is, well, just like it sounds, but without any further ado, let's make Dr. Pepper chicken. So the ingredients for Dr. Pepper chicken are super simple. You need 4 to 6 boneless, skinless chicken breasts in a 9x13 dish. You're going to need, of course, Dr. Pepper, and you do want regular Dr. Pepper, not the diet, not Dr. Pepper Zero, real full-blooded Dr. Pepper. You need your favorite barbecue sauce, any kind you like, with the exception of maybe not a watery vinegar barbecue sauce or a mustard-based barbecue sauce, but short of that, your favorite variety works just fine. You need a half a cup of ketchup, and you need a tablespoon of brown sugar, and then any other spices that you prefer, salt, pepper, or, as I'm going to do here, a dry barbecue rub. And as I said, preparing this could not be simpler. You're going to arrange your chicken in a 9x13 dish, pat it dry, and you're going to season it. You want to season it well on both sides. Then, in a small bowl, you're going to mix together a half a cup of Dr. Pepper, a half a cup of barbecue sauce, and a half a cup of ketchup. Also add in your brown sugar and mix that well. You simply pour that over the chicken. You're going to bake that in a preheated 350-degree oven, uncovered for 1 hour. And folks, that's it. This is what it looks like when it comes out of the oven. Simply plate it up. It goes really, really well with rice. You can also use this with grilled chicken. If you prefer to grill your chicken, however you want to do that is fine. Just baste it with this barbecue sauce in the last 5 to 10 minutes. And And ladies and gentlemen, there you go. I know I always say that it can't get any easier than that or something of that sort, but I think you'll agree that statement is very true of this. Yes, it takes an hour to cook, but you can have it in the oven in 5 minutes. At any rate, I hope you'll give this a try and let us know how it goes down in the comments. All right, let's talk a little bit more about Under the Rising Moon. Under the Rising Moon is the story of Homer Aiken. We met Homer in the first book in this series on the sandy beach. And Homer, if you don't recall, is a computer programmer. He works from home, and he takes care of his mother, Gertie, who is unfortunately suffering from early onset Alzheimer's. And she is really beginning to succumb to the effects of that terrible disease. And it's also the story of Skylar Montgomery. Skylar is a young woman who has come to Raspberry Ridge with her fiancé, and without spoiling anything, I'll just say she finds herself alone in Raspberry Ridge, and she is also very, very, very pregnant. While trying to solve her situation, she's caught in a rather strong thunderstorm and seeks shelter in the standalone garage of Homer and his mother. And, well, I won't spoil any more about the events that happen then, but they are events that bring Homer and Skylar together and starts their journey and the questions of will they accept the new paths that the Lord has put in front of each of them, and can they navigate these to find happiness and possibly true love? Of course, you're going to have to come back this Friday to find out. But for now, here is a live preview reading of the opening of Under the Rising Moon. I hope you enjoy it, and then come back this Friday for the full release here on Say with Jay. Please stop. Skylar Montgomery held one hand over her protruding belly, massaging the spot on the top left that always seemed to ache. Maybe the baby's head was pushing against her skin there. We just stopped. What's wrong with you? Jeff Lewis, her boyfriend, fiancé, and the father of her baby, gave her a derisive look. She felt like she was really putting him out by asking him to stop. I'm pregnant. That's what's wrong. Your child is sitting on my bladder. She tried to keep her voice modulated and not sound as annoyed as she felt. It wasn't her fault she had to pee. Was she supposed to pretend that she didn't? Suffer in silence? It wasn't like she demanded that he stop. She'd asked nicely. The exit flew by, and she gritted her teeth. I really need to go. You're going to have to stop at the next exit, or you're going to have a mess on your nice pickup seat to clean up. It wasn't an idle threat. She felt like she couldn't wait any longer. She'd tried to wait as long as she could before she said something, because she knew his reaction was going to be the way it was. That's the way it had been the last 3 times she'd asked to stop. It wasn't like she was going every 15 minutes. It had been 2 hours since they stopped before. You're more of a pain in the butt than you're worth, he mumbled to himself. If you pee on my pickup seat, you're going to regret it. He'd never exactly threatened her, but there were times, like now, that he made her feel like his possessions were more important than she was. Please, let's not fight. This is our last time together as a couple before the baby comes. She was due in 2 weeks, and she felt like she and Jeff were drifting apart. She knew she shouldn't have slept with him to begin with, not without a ring, a golden band, not the tiny engagement stone that he'd given her, even if it had been a bit snug and she no longer wore it because her fingers had swelled with her pregnancy. But he'd been very persuasive, and she hadn't wanted him to get mad at her. Plus, an engagement was almost like being married. They were committed to each other. There was nothing that could break their bond. Anyway, she felt like they were drifting apart and had asked him to take a long weekend to spend it with her. She wanted to renew their spark because when the baby arrived, she'd been told that she'd be very busy, and sometimes relationships suffered in the newborn stage. Hopefully, her baby would be a good one, would sleep through the night, and would hardly ever cry. It would be the first thing in her life that was easy, but she kind of felt like God owed her something easy after all the hard things she'd gone through. She could hear her grandma saying that God didn't owe anyone anything, but she pushed those thoughts aside and set her jaw stubbornly. She could also hear her gram saying that she was too stubborn for her own good. Then her Aunt Ruth, Gram's sister, would say, "Oh, Roberta, she's determined. She has perseverance. She's not stubborn." Aunt Ruth always did see the best in her, even more than her gram did. But that wasn't saying much. Plus, both of those ladies had passed on years ago. "If you don't want to fight, you shouldn't have started one. You threatened to pee on my seat. What are you, 2? Jeff spit the words out, sounding like the jerk her best friend said he was. After Kylie had OD'd, she hadn't had anyone else that she could call best friend, unless she wanted to count Jeff. She wanted him to be her best friend. She heard that married couples should be each other's best friends, but Jeff wasn't exactly kind and compassionate the way Kylie was. Of course, Kylie had gotten hooked on drugs, and toward the end, the only thing she cared about was making money so she could buy her next fix. So, yeah, she'd stolen Skylar's stash that she had under her mattress from working at the diner outside of Chicago. She could hardly be mad at Kylie, since shortly after she'd stolen the money and Skylar had figured it out and confronted her with that, Kylie had OD'd. And she was planning Kylie's funeral, not that it was much of a funeral. She had never known how expensive it was to bury someone. Actually, it was cheaper to be cremated, so she wasn't sure what Kylie's wishes were, but her friend had been cremated because that had been all Skylar could afford. They'd had a little ceremony at the funeral home, although it was just Skylar and a couple other people from the diner who came. She didn't know where Kylie's family was. Kylie never talked about them. Kind of the way Skylar didn't really talk about her family either. But she was going to turn over a new leaf and have a different life for her baby. Jeff was a respectable man with a steady job at Thompson's Trash and Recycling. He got up every morning at 4 o'clock and rode the garbage truck route around Chicago. It was a hard job, but it paid well, and Jeff was a very dependable employee. Of course, when he got off work on Friday afternoon, he was pretty much drunk from 2 hours later until the early hours of Sunday morning. But that's probably what she would do too if she had such a strenuous, difficult job. "I won't pee on your seat, but I really do have to go. Please?" "Fine. Whatever the next exit is, we'll take it. That's where you'll pee. Although, if you want to, I can stop along the road." "No, I couldn't possibly go to the bathroom along the road. Someone might see me." "It's not like they care. You're as big as a whale." "That's why I need to pee all the time." Jeff used to tell her she was the most gorgeous woman in the world. After a couple of beers, he acted like she was too. Tears pricked her eyes, and she swallowed hard to push them away. Normal people were as big as a whale when they were pregnant. She was normal. and it wasn't completely abnormal for the father of the baby to look at a mother's pregnant body and not think she was sexy anymore. Of course, she didn't really know how men thought, but they seemed to be attracted to the skinny girls. She'd always been skinny. And she would be again once the baby was born. Lord, please let the next exit be soon. I don't think I can hold it too much longer. Hi, this is Jay, and thanks for listening. If you're ready for another great audiobook, here's one we think you might like. Or check out the playlist with all our latest releases. Don't forget to subscribe to Say with Jay, give this video a thumbs up, and tell us what you liked in the comments.